Why is there sand leaking out of your sand filter on your swimming pool? Well, the first thing you have to identify is, are you in fact losing sand? There are some types of algae that grow in swimming pools that looks just like sand, and the way to tell whether it is or not is to feel it. Silica sand is kind of gritty and thick, and you can feel it gritty in your fingers or underneath your toes, whereas the type of algae that looks like the silica sand, if you went to touch it, it would all just disappear into the water, and that's more or less how you tell the difference. If it is sand, most commonly that sand would be directly in a line on the ground in front of the returns in the swimming pool, and that's because the sand would in theory be traveling from the filter and through the swimming pool system, returning to the pool, and then just be depositing in a straight line in front of the returns. And that's a telltale sign. If you've got sand in a straight line in front of the returns approximately in your swimming pool, you're going to definitely find that there's sand escaping your filter somehow. Now, if that's the case, you have to start asking yourself questions like, have you done anything different recently? Like, for example, if you installed a new pool pump 3 days ago and now there's sand escaping your filter, obviously that's a big sign. It's unlikely that now of all times the filter decided to have a lateral break. That would be unreasonable to assume that. It would be more reasonable to assume that changing the system, for example, maybe the pump is more powerful than the last one, and in some cases if the pump is too powerful, like variable speed pumps, some of them are super powerful, and if you go and put one of those on the average sand filter, you're going to well exceed the design flow rate for that filter head. And it could be that the sand is being agitated so much by this water flow that's greater than what it was designed for, that sand is now finding its way through the internal plumbing and making its way back to the swimming pool. That could happen. But let's say your situation's different. You haven't done anything different. Just one day you notice there's a bunch of sand in the pool. Maybe you didn't even think anything of it and thought maybe it came in on the kids playing around or something like that. You vacuum it up and the next day more sand in the pool. Well, what's likely happened is that the laterals, or the little fingers that are inside of your sand filter, at the bottom of your sand filter, one of them's become cracked somehow. This can happen. This could happen over the winter season from freeze damage. It could just happen because of chemical damage, and that plastic has it got weaker and older until finally it just let go, and now it's cracked or broken, and sand is escaping and finding its way back to your swimming pool. That's how you would find that to be a problem, is because you'd find sand in your pool. If that's the case, then that's probably what you're experiencing. What if you just recently changed the sand in your filter? That's a big question, and there's a good chance that if you're watching this video, that's what's happened to you. You recently changed the sand in your filter, now you're getting sand back in the pool, and you're reading a lot of things about people saying, well, you probably broke a lateral. Maybe you did break a lateral. The laterals, if you're changing the sand in the filter, they're old. They've been exposed to chemicals for a long time. Every time that pool water wasn't balanced properly, it was exposed to those harsh chemical environments. Maybe the plastic's older and it's not as resilient as plastic that's used nowadays. That's a possibility. Ultimately, if you change the sand in your filter, you stress out all of those internal fingers and those plastic components. And if one was, on the verge of letting go, but might have lasted another season if just left stationary, by you vacuuming out all the old sand and throwing in new sand, you might have broke the lateral in the process of that. But don't jump immediately to that, because there's one other thing that could happen. When you changed the sand, maybe some of the sand got into the center standpipe, or maybe you put a little more sand than you were supposed to. If you don't change sand in sand filters every day, you might not realize that you're not supposed to fill it up to the top. You probably discovered that if you did your homework, that it's only maybe about 2/3 of the filter tank is actually full of the filter media, and the rest of the space is for the water. But you might not have realized that, and you might have just bought sand and filled yours up. And if that's the case, you're going to find about 1/3 of the volume of that tank in sand on the bottom of your swimming pool. So if this was my problem and I had a filter that was dumping sand back into the pool, I might give it 1 or 2 more days just to see if it wasn't a matter where I slightly overfilled it or something like that. If it continues to empty sand into the bottom of the pool, then obviously something internal on that filter's failed, and you're probably going to need to replace it, or at the very least open it up, identify the failed components, and perhaps replace the lateral assembly inside of there.